So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and let's see if I could get here. Let's get rid of this thing. There we go. Srimad Bhagavatam. This is from the third canto, and chapter 11, calculation of time from the atom. Today's topic is going to be trasareṇu, and this is description of the atom, or 6 atoms. This is the word for 6 atoms, hexatom. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam. It's going to give us complete knowledge about everything, how we can understand science, and even beyond so-called science today, it analyzes. And this is how we understand things, through hearing. And this is the only way we can do it, is through the Bhagavatam. There's no other way to understand. Just like we read in the, it was in the third canto, I think, I forget which chapter it was, 6th chapter. There's a nice verse, is saying, O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So here we're measuring time from the atom. So this is the smallest unit of measurement. And this is what we're going to be discussing today. So let's dive right into it. We'll chant this verse together. There's 4 verses. I'm going to be reading from 5 to 9. There's hardly any purports. So let's get into it. See, so 2 atoms make 1 double atom, and 3 double atoms make 1 hexatom. This hexatom is visible in the sunshine, which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hexatom goes up towards the sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The atom is described as an invisible particle, but when 6 such atoms combine together, they are called a trasareṇu, and this is visible in the sunshine pouring through the holes of a window screen. So let's go right to the next verse. This, oops, I hit it twice here, sorry. This is 6. Okay, so I'll just chant this real quickly. Trasareṇu trikam bhuṅkte yakala sat truṭis smritaha sata bhagastu vedha shat taistri bistu lavah smritaha. The time duration needed for the integration of 3 trasareṇus is called a truṭi, and 100 truṭis make 1 vedha. 3 vedhas make 1 laghu. Purport. It is calculated that if a second is divided into 1,687.5 parts, each part is a duration of a truṭi. So that's the truṭi, is 3 trasareṇus. So they're saying that there was 100 of these make a vedha and 3 of these make a laghu. So this is the duration of a truṭi, which is the time occupied in the integration of 18 atomic particles. So that's kind of how we can analyze it, as dividing our second by 1,687.5, that we will be able to understand the time occupied by 18 atomic particles, so to speak of 1. Such a combination of atoms into different bodies creates the calculation of material time. So just see, the combination of all these atoms is how time is manifest in this material world. So the sun is the central point for calculating all different durations. Okay, let's go to the next one. Text number 7. Nimeṣas tri lavo jineya amnatas te traya kṣaṇah kṣaṇan pancha vidu kṣaṇtam laghu dasa panchacha. The duration of time of 3 lavas is equal to 1 nimeṣa. The combination of 3 nimeṣas makes 1 kṣaṇa. 5 kṣaṇas combined together make 1 kāṣṭhā, and 15 kāṣṭhās make 1 laghu. Purport. By calculation, it is found that 1 laghu is equal to 2 minutes. the atomic calculation of time in terms of Vedic wisdom may be converted into present time with this understanding. So we got a couple more verses. Text number 8. Laguni vai samamnata dasa pancha cha nāḍikā te dve muhūrta prahara sadhyama saptavanunam. 15 laghus make one nāḍikā, which is also called a daṇḍa. 2 daṇḍas make one muhūrta, and 6 or 7 daṇḍas make 1/4 of a day or night, according to human calculations. We're not even talking about demigod calculations, which is a whole nother time frame. Okay, so text number 9. Dvadasardha palonmanam chaturbis chatur angulai swarnamasai krita chidram yavat prasta jala plutam. The measuring pot for one nāḍikā or daṇḍa can be prepared with a 6 pala weight, which is 14 ounce, pot of copper, in which a hole is bored with a gold probe weighing 4 masa and measuring 4 fingers long. When the pot is placed on water, the time before the water overflows in the pot is called 1 daṇḍa. Purport. It is advised herein that the bore in the copper measuring pot must be made with a probe weighing not more than 4 masa, or measuring no longer than 4 fingers. This regulates the diameter of the hole. The pot is submerged in water, and the overflooding time is called a daṇḍa. This is another way of measuring the duration of a daṇḍa, just as time is measured by sand in a glass. It also appears that in the days of Vedic civilization, there was no dearth of knowledge in physics, chemistry, or higher mathematics. Measurements were calculated in different ways as simply as could be done. So that's the end of the verses I'll be reading today. So Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksus Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadanti Swavadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakapatubhyascha kripasindhubhyacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I'm sure everybody understood that. So, because you're all very intelligent. But anyway, we'll repeat. The division of ghost time is calculated as follows. 2 atoms make 1 double atom, and 3 double atoms make 1 hexatom. This hexatom is visible in the sunshine, which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hexatom goes up toward the sky. So this word really stuck to me. That's why I put that word in the beginning of the introduction, this hexatom, because this is how where you can actually see an atom. But that's 6 atoms together. So when 6 atoms are together, they become visible. And you can see them as described as sunshine entering through the holes of a window screen. And then the next verse was the time duration needed for the integration of 3 trasareṇus is called a truṭi, and 100 truṭis make 1 vedha. 3 vedhas make 1 laghu. So Prabhu says if you calculate that second by 1,000, so many parts, then that's a truṭi, which is described here. That the time duration needed for the integration of 3 trasareṇus is called a truṭi, or 100 truṭis make 1 vedha. Okay, so that's the time that's took to integrate 18 atomic particles. So this is interesting. This is how we can actually calculate time. It's very scientific. And then the next verse, the duration of time of 3 lavas is equal to 1 nimeṣa. The combination of 3 nimeṣas makes 1 kṣaṇa, 5 kṣaṇas combined together make one kāṣṭhā, and 15 kāṣṭhās make one laghu. So see, this is, the laghu is actually 2 minutes. And 15 laghus make one nāḍikā, which is also called a daṇḍa. And that's described here, daṇḍa. And then it's daṇḍa punch, 15. 2 daṇḍas make one muhūrta, and 6 or 7 daṇḍas make 1/4 of a day or night, according to human calculation. So the last verse that we read, the measuring pot for one nāḍikā or daṇḍa can be prepared with a 6 pala weight, 14-ounce pot of copper. So you have this pot of copper and you bore a hole in it with a golden probe. It's weighing 4 masas and it measures 4 fingers long. So when the pot is placed in the water, the time before the water overflows in the pot is called one daṇḍa. So that's a way of measuring. Just like we have our sand glass, you can measure, they have these timers, 1-minute timers or 5-minute timers with the sand. So it's different ways. So now we can measure with different computers and so many different things now. We can measure time. But who can measure time this small? I mean, the smallest amount of time we have is, we see is like the second, but then you could try to divide that. But here, this nice analogy that's given is the sunshine that's coming through the window like that. You can see the different rays. That's one hexatom. That's 6 atoms together. You can analyze it. It's very amazing to just see, and people become very amazed at these things that we could see, very tiny particles, and they start to rise up to the sky. It's like, you know, you see the dust and the different rays, different things, very tiny, minute things that we try to analyze. And we've been, you know, since we were children, since we first come into this world, we're trying to observe. We observe these things and we're very much in wonder, and we're amazed and attracted to this material energy. It's so wonderful. It's Krishna. But trying to understand it, like the scientists now, they're growing up more and they're trying to see the smallest particles in nature. But how can you see something invisible? You see, as I was talking with Ramananda before class, it's like, you know, how can you see it? You can't see something that's doesn't, you know, that's light or something that's, how can you measure it? There's no way to measure. But people are speculating from time to time, here and there, according to the different instruments that they have, the microscopes, whatever they're trying to analyze. But how can they really understand with these imperfect senses that we have? I don't think so. So they're actually just like throwing dice, they're gambling, putting their experiments and just guessing. Oh, it's probably like this, might be like that, you know, let's punch it in these big brain computers and see what comes up with, you know. But still, they're just speculating. How can they actually know what's going on? It's very difficult. And that's why I quoted that verse where Vidura was very much being humbled by what's going on with Krishna's energy. He's like, how can I understand this form of Krishna? You know, how can you estimate or even measure transcendental time? You know, he has such a potency. He has such a tiny form and yet such a gigantic form. It's manifested by his internal potency. So these are like the froggish philosophers. They're trying to speculate on so many things and analyzing things. They're putting things together here. So if you actually put it in the computer, I don't know if you've seen this one application, you could go online, it's called Wolfram Alpha. And you could put in any kind of equation and it'll figure it out for you. So I put in 1 second divided by this number that's given in the Bhagavatam here, 1687.5. And this is what the result comes to. I don't even know how to read that number, but maybe some of you know. 5.926 to the times 10 to the negative 4 seconds. That's dividing the time in a certain way. So another way to look at it as microseconds is 592.6 microseconds, or milliseconds is 0.5926 milliseconds. And then they give you some kind of comparisons. I don't even understand what these mean, but it's the time which a baseball being hit remains in contact with the bat. So it's 0.7 milliseconds. So it kind of give you a comparison of time, is how they're trying to give us an idea. And as far as a comparison of as a period, it's equivalent to 12 times the sampling time for the highest frequency tone audible to humans, which is 0.05 kilohertz, if you can understand that. Or if you're looking at a digital audio, 26 times the sampling time for 44 kilohertz digital CD, which is 0.02273 kilohertz. Anyway, this is different ways of looking at it. So can we really understand it? I mean, these are just numbers. I mean, but you can't see it. I mean, we could calculate it in different ways, and the Vedas are giving us ways you can calculate it. It says divide a second by this, and you can get the time period. What was it it was described there? It was described a certain amount of measurement of the atoms that you could analyze. So this is very minute, and just goes to show how complete the Vedic knowledge is. It's just simply amazing. You know, today, what do we have? We have 1 second. This is a second of time. And maybe you could divide that second, you know, if you have one of those stopwatches, it goes like, there's a 1 second, then it has 0.00. The smallest I've seen is it goes 3, which is like 0.1 or 0.01, 0.001. But this is 1 minute, actually. It's just, this is a clock. And we have 60 seconds. That makes up one of our minutes. And it was described here how we can calculate 2 minutes by the atomic measurement, according to our calculations. So this is very wonderful. How can we actually understand this? But Maitreya is thinking, how can I want to avoid unchaste conscious activities. I'm trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, but I don't have the ability to describe them. It's not a product of research, but a result of hearing submissively. So this is our process here, is that we can't understand, I can't understand. So just by hearing. So here's a minute. So the smallest time span here is I have this disappearing, each one of those as 0.1 second. That's like as quick as we could go. So if something is happening so fast, faster than that, you will not even be able to see it. It's invisible. And we're describing that dividing a second by 1,000, over 1,000. How can you even see that? You can't see it. It's happening so fast. And we can't even imagine, right before our eyes, there's so many things happening so fast that we can't even observe it. So that was just one analogy to give you an idea. So here you can see that people are trying to see that, oh, everything came from nothing. You know, just the Big Bang theory, you know, started from a point which has no measurement. But actually, Prabhu says that's not true. A point actually can be measured, because you don't have the instruments to measure it, or you don't have the eyes to see it. Doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be measured, but actually it can be measured. And this is exactly what we're doing in these particular verses. You can actually measure the point, finer than a point. What's finer than an atom? Nothing's finer than an atom, but it actually has a dimension. It has a length and breadth. And this is how we can see the Vedic literatures actually describe that. Our seeing power, we can't see beyond this room. You know, we can't even see, as we showed the first image in the beginning of the presentation, the sun coming over the ocean very nicely. That sun, we're seeing it, but it looks like a disk. But it's actually 1,400,000 times bigger than this planet. Can you imagine that? And the distance that is? It's just simply amazing. We can't even see that. So it looks like a disk to us, but so these things we can't experiment. So we have to take knowledge from the Vedas. These are the Vedic mantras. Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada Pasanti Suryo Nityo Nityanam Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidati Kaman. So in the Kanta Upanishad describes that we can only understand these things through the Vedic science, through Vedic knowledge. Otherwise our knowledge isn't perfect. We have to do it in that way. We can't imagine, just simply imagine things, that it's like this, or get an idea what it's like. We can't imagine, just like the atom. It's supposed to be the smallest thing, and you can only see 6 atoms together. So that means that the smaller atoms, they're actually very small. You can only see it as a trasareṇus as described, and they come through the window screen as we showed there. But it's a combination of 6 atoms. It's not the original atom. So that's simply amazing. So let's go to the next one here. We could see we're trying to understand Krishna through these blunt material instruments, these material senses. We're trying to analyze things that are very minute to things that are very, very huge. What can we imagine? It's like the atoms are so minute and Krishna is so gigantic. I don't know if there's a word you could use, the biggest or the biggest. It's like so huge you can't even imagine. So this is what the scientists are trying to understand, trying to see these very particles of dust to these huge particles in space. They look like dust, but they're actually humongous bodies, which is beyond our comprehension. It's like the frog in the well, trying to understand things with his limited conception. He's only aware of what he can see. Like the biggest thing that we can see is space. We think that's the biggest thing, space. But yet within Mahavishnu, there's unlimited spaces, unlimited universes. We can't imagine that. So we're just in a small space. It's like a well. And we can only imagine that much. And trying to comprehend more, we just blow our brains. We can't understand. It's not impossible. Therefore, we have to be submissive. We have to become chaste and just learn from the Vedic wisdoms. They give us the real understanding of how things really are. There's the most minute thing. We see the atom, but within the atom, Krishna has actually expanded himself as the supersoul. He's the energy there. He's the life. He's the light there. The spiritual energy. Prabhu describes how this material world is made up of 2 energies, actually like 3 energies, but he mostly says spiritual and material energies. So here we're a combination, and we're that jiva, which is like the marginal energy, which is spiritual also, but we're in this material energy. But in the spiritual world, it's nothing but spiritual energy. It's all spiritual. But here we're caught up in this material energy. It's such a minute world. We're in this, as we see the atoms flowing through the screen of a window, the atoms or the universes are flowing through Krishna's pores of his body as if they were like light coming through a screen. Can you imagine that? From the smallest, minutest thing, like atoms, which you can't even see, to the most amazing things from his skin holes, his pores of his skin. There's millions of universes flowing through there, like light going through the window screen. And we can't even imagine that. We can't even imagine one universe, what to speak of millions of universes emanating through his pores of his body, which is just an expansion of Krishna. And that's not even it. That's not everything. That's just the material world. In the spiritual world, there's expansions of planets unlimitedly. There's all these Vaikuntha planets, these spiritual worlds, and they're all emanating from Krishna also. Now, talk about blowing your mind. And this is like 3/4 of Krishna's energy, if you want to put it that way. What we're talking about in the material universe is emanating from Krishna's pores. That's like only 1/4 of Krishna's energy. So 3/4 is in the spiritual world. So just think how minute and insignificant we are. It's just so amazing. We can't understand. So Krishna, he manifests these unlimited forms whenever he likes, however he likes. Vishnu forms, this is what we're just talking about, from the skin holes emanates millions of universes and is manifesting a Vishnu for each one of his friends and cows, bewildering Lord Brahma, who is thinking that he is something to understand. He thinks he can actually understand Krishna. He says, where am I? I'm a small creature of 7 spans of measurement in my hand. I'm enclosed in the universe composed of material nature, the total material energy, false ego, air, ether, water, and earth. And what is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body, just like particles of dust passing through the opening of a window. So this is after Lord Brahma stole the calves and the boys, and he returned to see Krishna. The calves and the boys are still roaming with Krishna. So then he made this prayer. He was completely defeated. So Lord Brahma, he manages the entire universe, and he can't even compare the personality of Godhead, who can produce numberless universes simply by the spiritual rays emanating from the pores of his body. So these material scientists should take lessons from Lord Brahma regarding the insignificance we are and even he is in comparison to God. So these are the prayers that were given in the Brahma Samhita, where Lord Brahma is describing that very wonderful thing. So we can't even imagine our material brain, because, you know, what are we? We're just a spark. And here's Krishna, another way of manifesting his unlimited glories in his mouth as a little child. He's manifesting the entire universe and beyond. It's just bewildering who this personality is. And to think there's people that have relationships with him, like Mother Yasoda and his friends. They play with him. This is mind-boggling. It's bewildering. We are spiritual beings. We have a part role to play with this personality. But yet we've given it up and taken shelter of this material energy, which is very, very demeaning. So here we are, the soul, which is described, is even smaller than the atom. Can you believe that? It's described to be 1/10,000th part of a point. I mean, there's no mathematician who can say that. They say a point has no length and breadth, but actually it does. It just, as we mentioned, they don't have eyes to see. They don't have measurements to measure these things, but it does. Because we get why? We get information from the Vedic literatures.
Gaudacandra. Let me unmute everybody.
Did it go off?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. I was wondering, is that just me that I lost? But
Yeah, you muted everybody. I was muted, or somebody did. I don't know. I'm not blaming you.
I'll leave everybody unmuted. How's that? We can all mute
That's
ourselves.
okay.
But
But
I
sometimes you
didn't
can.
do anything. It just all of a sudden the voice went.
Yeah, I saw this thing came up, so I'm gonna see if I can hide it again. I don't know if I can. I'll just leave it there, I guess. Okay, I'll go back to the presentation. And let's see what happens. Okay. So we're talking about the living entity who is described to even be smaller than an atom. It's 1/10,000th the part of a point. So the living entity is actually even smaller than that, you and I. We're talking about something very, very small, the atom, which we can't even see, it's invisible. But yet, this soul, you, we're even smaller than that. It's described as we're 1,000 times smaller than the atom. So Prabhupada describes that verse, Anor Aniyam Mahato Mahiyan. He's greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest. So smaller than the smallest, that's who we are. We're his part and parcel. And Krishna is there with us. So just like the sun again, the sunshine is a combination of all these small atomic molecular parts, shining parts, but they're also different and they're not combined together. They're not like homogenized. They're actually individual sparks. So, and that's how we are. We're 1/10,000th a part of a point. And that's how we're described in the Bhagavad Gita. Mamaya Vamso Jiva Bhuta. We're actually part of Krishna. In this mature world, we have to understand that we're small spiritual sparks, part and parcels of Krishna. Just like in the morning, we saw the sun there in the beginning. You see the light, and we see how important the sunlight is. It's so important. We measure time to the sun, we get light, it nourishes so many different things. And we see it, we feel pleasure. It's a nice sunny day. Like it was raining earlier, now you can see the sun is just kind of burning up the fog. And everyone likes the sun. So, but sometimes there's, the sun is never covered, but there's a cloud, sometimes will cover it. And the cloud may expand hundreds and hundreds of miles, but it never covers the sun. You can go millions of miles, and the cloud still can never, it could cover your eyes, but it never covers Krishna's. So similarly, we are covered in this material body. The spiritual spark is covered. This sunlight ray of the jiva is covered in this material body. We see the cell. The cell, we think, is very small. I mean, it's made up of so many atoms, but yet within that cell, it's like a city. There's so many things going on, so many things happening. It's like a huge machine. And the living entity is actually taken shelter in that machine. This is the most minute thing within the human body. It looks like a universe, but the jiva is actually being covered over by this cloud in the womb. And this is a very, very fine particle that's described in medical terms. I forget the term. But here, the living entity is taking shelter in this material energy of earth, water, fire, air, ether. And he's taking birth here. And he's covered. His consciousness is covered. He can't see the light. He can't understand things. It's very minute. And Krishna's energy is so powerful that it could cover the living entity. You see this, it looks very small, but actually the jiva is even much tiny. This little embryo is huge compared to the size of the jiva. And this is Krishna's energy. And that's not even the biggest part of his energy. We're just looking at one person's body and looking in some of this tissue in one person's body, not looking at the entire universe, which you can imagine, like the background here, like the stars and so many different things like that. So this is our position. We've taken birth in this mature world. We've created cities. We created our homes here, thinking that this is actually where we belong. But this is not where we belong. This is not our home. We actually belong in the spiritual world. There's higher planetary systems that go beyond, this material planets, these material universes. Actually, within the material universes, there's heavenly planets, heavenly universes, which are much larger than what we can even imagine. What to speak of the universes in the spiritual world. And our real home there is with Krishna, who is actually a person. He's a person. And we have a relationship with that person. So this is our whole position, is to try to understand Krishna. Not by imagination, not by a malinterpretation, but by the fact. And the fact is being explained by Krishna himself in these verses and throughout all the Vedic literatures. So why should we try to go to understand Krishna by some commentary of less intelligent people with poor fund of knowledge, like impersonalists or scientists or demons? So Prabhupada mentions how that's the purpose of our Krishna conscious movement, is that we're presenting this Srimad Bhagavatam, this Bhagavad Gita. That's all. We just present it as it is. There's no difficulty. We accept Krishna as authority. He's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's given that position by all the acharyas. All the acharyas express that. Like Vyasadeva, Narada, Sita, Devala, many big stalwart personalities. Everybody knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the original writer of the Vedic knowledge. And this Veda Vyasa accepts that. He accepts, yes, I'm the Vedic original writer, but yet I accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he has a disciple named Narada Muni, and that disciple is, his disciple is the disciple of Narada Muni. And Narada Muni accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is it. This is Krishna describes. This is Ishvara Padama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Govinda Maripusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Krishna is a person. And all this material energy is his and his expansion. So thank you very much. I'd like to end there and open it up for discussion or comments, realizations, technical understandings, scientific.
Like I said, I unmuted everybody, so they have the ability themselves.
I want to thank you, Gaudacandra, Prabhu, for very nice class, and gosh, all the research you did. I find personally that this is all like beyond me, and yeah, and and I was reading the verses ahead of time, and I was thinking, well, how could this be interesting? It's really not about our personal relationship with Krishna, or devotional service. That's far more attractive than getting down into the nitty-gritty of atoms and time and all that. But then I noticed a change as I was listening to you, that actually I felt quite enlivened, and even though this is beyond my comprehension, it's just so purifying to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam and hear devotees like yourself speak on it and chanting the verses, and and ultimately it's just all transcendental. And I feel enlivened and encouraged, and in spite of, like, at least materially, it seemed like it just wasn't going to be of much interest. And it just helps me appreciate Krishna consciousness and Krishna's magnificence and amazingness, and and how small we are. And these material scientists, they just don't have a clue that this was all brought up before their scientists thought they discovered it, all in the Vedas, earlier than 5,000 years ago, because this knowledge was passed on verbally, auditorily, through disciplic succession, and so it was just merely written down 5,000 years ago. But anyway, that's all. I don't have any questions, because again, this is beyond me, but I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you. What was your name again?
Oh, my name is Kandita Devidasi.
Oh, okay.
I live on the Big Island, where Ramananda and Jugala Ross live.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Thank you for the encouragement. I read there was a purport somewhere I read. Prabhupada, it was very encouraging, where Prabhupada mentioned something that, it's not possible to even repeat what we heard from our spiritual master fully, but we should try to narrate as far as possible by our honest endeavor. And it doesn't matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not, but one must attempt to engage one's body, our mental and verbal activities in his transcendental glorification. Otherwise, He says our activities will remain unchaste and impure. So
Yes.
this is how we become purified, by the method of engaging our mind and speech in the service of the Lord, whether we can describe him fully or even understand him. But just by doing that, we're getting purified. So
Absolutely.
purified. So
And
it's
something
nice.
you can experience. You know, it's
Yeah.
experiential.
Yes, exactly.
There's no explanation. Yes.
Yeah, nice. Any other comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. Who's this?
Hare Krishna. My name is Maharani Devidasi, and like Kandita, I very much appreciated your presentation and the way you brought it all together for us. That was
thank you.
Very nice. I would like to share with you all something I heard long before I was a devotee. I was at an astronomy club meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about gravity, and this person giving the lecture was trying to explain to us. He said, imagine taking a styrofoam ball, maybe about 20 inches in diameter, and poking it with hexagon-shaped pencils all over its surface. But as the pencils go further out from the ball, you can see that they're further apart. And that's the reason we think that when it snows, that all the snowflakes, even though they're all different, they're all six-pointed. And then when we got, and I had forgotten about that, just, filed it away in my memory. Then when we got to today's verse about the hexatoms being two, whatever. But anyway, it just reminded me of those hexagon-shaped rods of energy that are coming out from the earth. And so the poor material scientists, if they would just read the Srimad Bhagavatam, they wouldn't have to study so hard. They could just
speculate so hard.
Figure it all out.
Yeah.
They're going the long way around.
That's true.
Anyway, I very much appreciated your presentation.
Thank you. That was very interesting what you said. Jai. Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Haribol, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Jai.
So, yeah, this is interesting. The Vedic approach to estimating time, which is subtle, it can hardly be perceived.
Right.
So, also, we're all under the influence of time, and it's not a waste of time to understand time better. And even the daṇḍas and the muhūrtas, they show up in our sadhana.
Yes.
We're deity seva. It's all scheduled, clean and on. And there's a very interesting thing that Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasmita Sindhu. He says that 1/11 of a second associated with a pure devotee, that's enough.
Yeah.
That always fascinated me.
Yeah.
That's who came up with that? 1/11 of a second.
Yeah.
But it must be somewhere in the Vedas.
Right.
And I sort of have a question. The first verse was very interesting. That the hexagons, they can be seen, like through the screen of a window.
Right.
In the sunlight. And you had a few images in the early part of the slideshow kind of displaying the rays, and then some girl with her hand and then the dust particles. And I remember when I was a kid, I would see those particles, but 6 atoms, it seems like an atom is so fine that just 6 of them, suddenly it's visible, that 6 combined together, suddenly you can see it. Because there's other explanations for that phenomenon, like dust mites or
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not dust. It can't be dust that's being described. It's got to be, what they refer to as photons.
Photons. Are they visible?
No, it's an interesting about photons. Photons are just a term that's used. There's no such thing as a photon. Photon it's not a particle at all. It's just a wavelength. It's a measurement of light, but it's not an entity. But somehow it seems to me this is not describing like dust that you see reflected off sunlight, but sunlight itself.
Yeah.
So it's like it's through a screen. It's not like the screen that you find on a window, but I think it's more like cloth, like really fine cloth, maybe something like that. And what it does is it's able to break up the light rays. So it's definitely not dust.
Yeah.
But it must be light rays. I guess the closest thing would be the conception of a photon.
And so imagine that Krishna is in there though as a super soul, and his energy is there.
But didn't it say in the purport they're visible?
Yeah, 6 hexatom is visible, which is 6 atoms.
But isn't that what it's saying is that it makes it so light is visible? In other words, instead of just being homogeneous like sunlight, in your room you can't really tell. There's light here. But when you put it through a screen like some fine cloth, then it breaks it up enough that you can see individual rays.
Yeah.
Like the picture he's got right now, it's not the dust that you're seeing, but those are like light rays that are being are coming through the window.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. And it reminds me of the time when these yogis, they can actually ride on the sun rays and go to different planets. And didn't Prabhupada once say that one time? He was testing it out. He was checking it out, trying it. But yeah, it's a very amazing phenomenon we have. Krishna's energy. So that's interesting.
In sci-fi movies, they come up with these wormholes, or warp time, or warp space, or something to somehow get from one, compressed, really go fast or something. How about the speed of light?
Yeah, I lost your voice. Can't hear. Are you still there? Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Oh,
are you there?
I hear you now.
Did you understand
you couldn't hear me before.
that the suggestion that was given in the last verse there about the pot? It's a copper pot, and then you make an instrument out of what was it, gold?
Yeah.
Gold. So it just says what the weight of the gold is, and the length, but not what the diameter is. But I suppose if you know what the length is, and you know what the weight is, then that's gonna tell you what the diameter is.
It'll give you the mass, yeah.
So then you put a hole like that in a copper pot, but it doesn't say what the weight of the pot is, or the gauge, or what the shape of the pot would be. Anyway, I can't imagine. I wonder how you'd make such a thing so it would be accurate. I suppose you put the hole in the bottom, and then you measure the amount of time it would take to fill up, and then it would go under the water, I suppose. Did you get that? How that would work?
Simply as could be done. Measurements are calculated different ways. As simply it could be done. So, you know, you have the sand going to the hourglass.
Right.
I thought it was hilarious. The example they gave for a split second is the time that the ball is in contact with a bat. Now, is that Americana or what? You know, I mean.
That was from the Wolfram Alpha, their analogy that they were given.
So, yeah, that's funny.
I don't know if that actually, they're trying to compare it. It's not quite, I guess the milliseconds is 0.59, like 6, but it's like 0.7. The baseball hits the bat. That's how much time it's in contact with it, yeah.
Yeah, so that's an American talking. I mean, they don't play baseball. They play baseball in Japan, you know, but that's not a world sport.
Right. That's true. It's an American sport. All American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I'm sure there should be some other cool examples to describe that, to see what it would be. But yeah, it's quite amazing, isn't it?
So in ancient times, it was easier to poke a hole in a copper pot.
Yeah, we can't even figure it out now, but it's easy for them. It's simple for them.
You know, I saw on YouTube the other day these amazing kinetic art in different inventions, and one of them was a hourglass with sand, but it was phenomenal how they made it with all kinds of different parts, and it was extremely accurate. It's not just like the glass one that you turn over, you know, but there's ways you can make them really accurate.
Yeah.
That was another thing mentioned. You can also do it with sand or other things. What is it? Sand in a glass. Yeah.
So you can see as the sun rises and sets, it decreases the life duration of everyone, except for one who is glorifying the Supreme Lord. So we're discussing about Krishna's energy, Krishna's, you know, his activities, his forms. By doing that, we're actually getting back to our original position in the spiritual world, getting out of this material energy.
Maharani's asking if you have some idea of where that place is where Prabhupada said he was looking into that yogic mystic city of Ray.
I think it was a conversation. Might have been one of his servants where he came in and, you know, and the sun was coming through the window like where Prabhupada was. Like we're showing that picture to the screen and sunshine. And I think one of his servants mentioned that to him. And that's what he said. He was talking about the yogic thing. And Prabhupada said, yeah, I was just testing that out. So I don't know. I could try to find out. I don't know offhand exactly where it is. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that comment. But yeah. Jai. So thank you all for your wonderful input and encouragement. And if there's any other comments or realizations, otherwise I guess we could end the class here.
Thank you, Gaudacandra Prabhu.
Jai. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, Laghu, Srimad Bhagavatam.
He Jai.
And
He Jai.
Jai, thank you so much.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol.